welcome to Grandpa's Snippets. I trust you've had a good couple of weeks, I guess, since we've been together. Hope you've enjoyed yourself, enjoying the summer. And so it's time to get back for a few more comments. And over the past 20 years, our family, our children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren have enjoyed playing Christmas bingo at our family gatherings, and it was not Christmas without Christmas bingo. It had to be it. And if you're one of the grandchildren, you know exactly where I'm going on this. I would reach into the bowl or into the bag, and I would stir up the slips and pull out whatever I was going to call. And everybody was always waiting till I pulled out Yule log. I drew out that word a long time ago. I don't know why I made it Yule log, but it wasn't bingo unless I repeated that. So at Christmas we celebrate Jesus' birthday, and I think of John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. So really, when you put the "so" into God so loved the world, it is speaking of the fullness of his heart. It's speaking of the great compassion that he freely gave to us, that he freely gave us his love. I'd like for you to tuck that away in your mind a little bit, or your heart, and we'll come back to that. But I want to talk about something that maybe some of you have. I'm sure most of you have at least one, a scar. Maybe it's for an operation, an accident, or whatever. I can think of a couple of grandkids who have scars. But let me talk a little bit about scars. I go back again to my childhood, and I'm going back to the farm again. I didn't realize I had so many memories from the farm. We only lived there like 2 years and a half or something, but a lot of them go back. It just goes to show you that young minds pick up a lot, so it's important to train young minds. I have 4 scars. I have one in the palm of my hand, one in my eyebrow, I have one in my knee, and one on my lower leg. The first one I got was on my lower leg. My dad burned wood to heat the house with in the winter, and it was June. My 2 older cousins came down from Cleveland, Ohio, to get out of the big city, and they would sometimes spend all summer. Irving and Bob would spend all summer down at our house, and they thoroughly enjoyed the farm. And so Dad took the boys, and I went along. We went out to the woods to cut wood, bring back, and they were cutting away with a crosscut saw, kind of low, and don't ask me what got into my mind. I thought, boy, that'd be something good to hop over. So I took off, started running, and they didn't know I was coming, and I tripped over a twig and fell right into the saw. Well, they stopped immediately. Thank goodness they did. But it made a pretty good gash across the front of my leg, and still have that scar. I don't ever remember going to an emergency room. Back then, they had, I guess, farm and home remedies and brown sugar and stuff, and they took care of it. But it left a pretty good scar. I remember another scar was we had moved, lived in town. I was a little older, maybe 6, I don't know. But I was going to play mechanic, and I took my tricycle, tied a rope around it, and threw it up over the limb and pulled it up. I was going to, like a mechanic, work on it or something, but somehow the rope slipped through my fingers, and down came the tricycle and hit me in the eye and slashed my eyebrow open. I am thankful to this day, over and over, that God protected me and I did not lose my eyesight. I will tell you, as far as my knee, when I was in the 5th grade, I would just tell you from experience, don't ride a bike that has a flat tire. I was riding a bike with a flat tire. Somehow I hit a stone, went over the handlebars, and came down on a brick, which was kind of partially buried in the dirt, just sticking out, and I slashed my knee across it and left a pretty good scar too. And Again, not to the emergency room. Actually called the doctor. He says, come up to my house. And we went up to his house, and he put clamps in it, or staples, or whatever they were, and so I spent some time on crutches with that. But one more, but it doesn't involve me. It involves Sheila. We were talking about this the other day. The family was getting ready to go out to a trip to Florida, and the children are out in the back. Randy, Cheryl, Shelley, and Sheila, they were out in the back, and they were playing ball. And Randy swung the bat and let the bat go, and it, just like a missile, hit Sheila right in the forehead and made a big star, and the blood just ran, and he felt really bad because he thought, oh boy, there goes our trip. We can't go to Florida. But they said, no, that's okay. You guys can go to Florida and get the stitches taken out down there. So we did enjoy our trip. But I'm sure all of you have memories of scars and things that you have gotten. But there are more than just the physical scars on our body. There's emotional scars, there's mental scars, psychological scars, and they're real. They hurt, they're painful, and many times go very, very deep. It would be nice if they healed up as quickly as that which we cut or on our body, but sometimes those type of scars take quite a long time. But God says that we will get rid of our scars in heaven. I'm going to go to Revelation 21, verse 4. 21:4 in Revelation. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things, or this former life, is passed away. So we'll have no more scars in heaven. We will have new bodies and new lives, and the scars will be removed. But there's one person who will have scars that will remain, and that's with Christ. They will be through all eternity, that he will have the scars that he bore for us, because God so loved the world that he gave his son that he would die and take scars within his hands and within his feet and within his side that would bring us the salvation that we have. So we know that he has scars because it says so in Zechariah in the Old Testament. Zechariah chapter 13, verse 6. 13, verse 6. And it says, and one shall say unto him, that's unto Christ, what are these wounds or scars in your hands? Then he shall answer, those with which I was wounded in the house of my friends. So it was when Christ came the first time that he was wounded. He was nailed to a cross. His feet was nailed to a cross. His side was speared. And he got these wounds, he said, in the house of his friends. He came to be friends to them, and they rejected him. When did he say this? Zechariah saying, they asked, well, what time did they ask? They asked when Jesus comes back the second time to the children of Israel, and this time they will accept him. They will accept him as Messiah. So the second coming is hitting on all 8 cylinders. Our cars now have 4 cylinders and 6 cylinders. Most of them back years ago were 8 cylinders. A lot of power, a lot of pep. The time and the signs and everything for Christ's coming is actually hitting on all 8 cylinders. I'm going to open up a subject which I should need 4, 5, 6, 8 hours to talk to you about, but I'm only going to be able to talk 4, 5, 6 minutes. But I just want to give you a bird's eye view of where we're getting to the point of where we will go and when we will go and get rid of our scars. The interesting thing is just this morning, I had about a 45-minute conversation on the phone with a lady who called me and had a lot of questions about prophecy and about the things, and I've enjoyed studying this ever since I've been a teenager. I would prefer to be in front of my class, which is 40-some people, and have charts and things that I could use and do this line by line instead of putting this up all at once. I'm going to make an attempt just to put it in a bird's eye view so you can get an idea of when we're going to get rid of our scars. we get rid of our scars when we go to heaven, when he calls it. When he calls us in the resurrection, when it says in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 51, 1 Corinthians 15:51, that we will be resurrected. Those in the grave will rise first, and those who are alive will be changed to meet the Lord in the air. Well, the resurrection and the rapture are the same event, which the rapture is recorded in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 18, and down through a few verses. 1 Thessalonians 4:18. So where does that occur? That occurs right here when Jesus comes and takes his church out. And then we are spending our time of 7 years in heaven, where we get new bodies, our scars are gone, all the emotional and all the mental and everything is renewed, and what a day that will be. While 7 years of wrath is going on down here on earth. The 7 years of wrath, which it says we are kept from, is in 1 Thessalonians 5:9. 1 Thessalonians 5:9, we are kept from the wrath which is on the face of the earth. He has us in heaven. Then we come back with him at the second coming. This is the time, I hope I don't move this around too much for you, but the second coming is the time when they ask this question, where did you get your wounds? Well, he comes back at the end of the 7 years to the Jewish people again, who then accept him as their Messiah. They rejected him the first time. And he sets up his rule on earth for 1,000 years. So we would say, how does this start from back here? The first coming was when God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. And in 32 AD, they nailed him to the cross. They rejected him. But since then, we live by faith. If you remember the illustration that I gave to you, we'll lay this down a moment, where we said that Christ, by grace, died on the cross. And by grace, this cup has the grace of God. How do we get it? It's through faith, which the straw is faith. We put it in, and we draw out. That's Ephesians 2, verses 8 and 9. Ephesians 2, 8 and 9, where it says, by faith are you saved, and not of works, not of yourself, that you could boast that you did that. So the people who have, since the cross, have accepted Christ through faith, which is the age of grace is going on for about 2,000 years now, have accepted Christ. I got little smiley faces, meaning that we are on the way of faith to Christ, and then the smiley face, which means this is the resurrection and the rapture, where he takes us, then we spend 7 years with him, and then we come back, and the smiley face, we're still with him. The main thing is this, that we realize and understand that if all the signs in the Bible, in Matthew 24 and other places in the Scripture, are for the second coming of Christ, and everything is sitting on 8 cylinders right now, every sign is here, every one is here, then that means that this resurrection has to happen any time now. It is any time. This is the first coming, the second coming, and there's only 2 comings mentioned in the Scriptures, the first and the second. But there's mention that there is a resurrection and a rapture, which there is no signs for. No signs. Signs are for the second. All the signs are here. So 7 years earlier, this will occur, and we're very, very, very close. I turn this around, take a quick look to see if there's anything else I want to point out to you on this, except to say that perhaps here in this, right at the bottom, I said these 7 years is for God to deal with sin, to prepare the earth, to get rid of sin, and at the second coming he will put Satan in the pit, and then he will reign 1,000 years, and we will be with him. That is something that I need Scripture, and I need more time. I need 4 or 5 hours to do it. And I'm glad I had 45 minutes this morning to share with this lady. And I wish I had that much time, but we know that snippets, you have to keep them real short. If you got specific questions, let me know. I'll try to help you out with them and help you to understand what is going on. So that is just quickly a bird's eye view. We're living in a world that is creating all kinds of scars, creating emotional scars, mental scars, financial scars, chains of habits that get a hold of people, broken relationships. There's conflict and division constantly going on among individuals and groups and nations. We're going to leave all these huge scars behind, all these huge scars. And the time is getting ready and quickly appearing when all this will happen. So Christ came and died on a cross so that we could live with him one of these days 1,000 years. We have the cross. We wear it around our neck. We have it on church steeples. We have it on stained glass windows, crosses in many places. The cross we know is an emblem of suffering. We see the cross and we think of the torture method that the Romans did to put people to death. And on the cross they put Christ to death. But to the Christian, the cross has a different meaning. The cross has a wondrous attraction. For on the cross, we see our salvation. We see the so loved demonstrated out before us, which Christ demonstrated for us. Let me close by telling you the story of a young lady. This young lady's mother rescued her from a fire when she was just but a babe in the cradle. The house was on fire and the mother ran in and picked the baby up and she wrapped the baby in the blanket so she would not get burned. But as the mother exited the house, she got badly burned on her hands and on her face, and it left terrible scars. The young girl grew up and she was wasn't feeling comfortable being around her mother in public because of the scars, and she didn't look as beautiful as she used to as a young lady. And one day, her dad called her aside just as she was getting ready to go into high school, and she didn't want her friends around her mother. And he called his daughter aside and explained, "Your mother got those scars sparing your life. She ran into the fire, spared you from any scars, and took all the scars so that you would be spared." The little girl, that's now a teenager, was so ashamed for the way she'd acted and what she'd done that she broke into tears, went to her mother and said, "I appreciate your scars. I love them." That's what we need to do with Christ. We need to tell him that we appreciate the scars that he did for us, that he went to a cross for us, that he died for us, and took the scars that one day we will be without scars, that he will bear his for all eternity. So may the Lord add his blessing to these thoughts and comments. Again, we're doing every 2 weeks during the summer so that give you a chance to get things done you need to and go places. So in 2 weeks, on July the 6th, we'll come up with the next snippet. And in the meantime, Lord bless you and have a couple good weeks. Thank you.